This is MuggleCast, the Harry Potter podcast discussing everything about J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World.
Welcome to MuggleCast, episode 341. I'm Micah.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Bethany.
We have replaced Andrew successfully.
With a girl.
It was a long audition process, but Bethany, you beat out the 550 other young women who came to the casting call.
Ah, what a victory.
Yes, as everyone may have guessed, we're joking, and Andrew is actually traveling at the moment and unable to make this week's MuggleCast, but we have a lovely Slug Club member, Bethany, joining us as originally planned, and thrilled to have you on. Bethany, please tell us about yourself, your favorite book, favorite film, Hogwarts House, all that good stuff.
I'm a Ravenclaw and Puckwudgie. I think McGonagall's my favorite professor out of all of them. It's a tie with Lupin, but I do love McGonagall because she's like really stern, but then she's also like really, really caring and loving. Yeah. What are the other questions? My favorite Hogwarts class? I would have to say Charms. That sounds awesome. Favorite book and film? This one's really hard because I switch it like every other day. But I just watched the first movie and I just could remember like seeing it for the first time and like the magic feeling of it starting the whole movie series. So first movie, book probably 3 or 7.
And what is your Patronus?
It is a ragdoll cat, I'm pretty sure, if I remember.
Ragdoll cat.
Yeah, which is also, I think I saw a video the other day, that's also Tom Felton's Patronus, so that's cool. We're connected.
You're in good company then.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that.
We lots of connections going today. I was telling you before the show, my sister's name is Bethany.
Yeah, and then...
It's a good name.
Yeah, and then I'm from Pennsylvania like you. And then I was in Chicago on Tuesday as well.
What?
Yeah, I was up there for the day for a job interview.
We didn't hang out.
I know, I was literally there for like maybe 6 hours. They flew me in the morning and flew me back at night, so...
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, hopefully you end up getting the job.
I did already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I got it. Actually, Andrew had emailed me on Thursday, and I'd heard Wednesday, and I was telling him, I was like, this is the best week ever. I got a job, and I'm going to be on MuggleCast.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
And now that you're going to be up there
actually,
full-time.
I won't be in Chicago. That's where the... I know. Everyone thought that when I was going up there for the interview. But that's where the headquarters of the company is. But the job's actually out in California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, do a layover in Chicago or something so we can congratulate you in person.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I was going to say, though, you were there Tuesday night, and we all know that Andrew and Eric were going round 2 for trivia on Tuesday night.
That's right. That's where we were on Tuesday.
Helped you out because, from what I understand, you actually fared worse than you did on your first trivia night.
God, Micah, you had to bring this up. You know, I wasn't going to mention it, you guys, but we, of course, talked about it a lot on last week's episode. Andrew and I went to, our second round of Harry Potter trivia in Chicago since he moved here. And I got to say, the questions were easier. But that meant that all the other teams had more of a shot, and therefore our end result of 4th place, not 2nd place, was a direct result of that. You guys, we got 4th place, not 2nd place, as we had done the first time. And unfortunately, it was a difficult time for us all. Please send your condolences to the P.O. Box. Let us know. In material gifts, send me chocolate. I am in mourning.
Chocolate fixes everything, so.
Chocolate fixes everything, right? But really, it was a fun night. It was a fun night yet again of Harry Potter trivia. And yeah, you know what? Like I mentioned, the questions were easier, but the questions that were harder were absolutely like harder, very, very difficult to figure out.
I feel like a question that everyone asked, were they more book related or movie related, the questions?
Interestingly, so the person who ran the trivia, whose name was Lily, actually, Lily S. So I think it's sort of an alternate timeline where Lily and Snape paired up. Turned out to have not read the books or seen the movies, which was I know, which is just like, what are you doing running Harry Potter trivia? But the trivia was run through the movie theater that we were at. So it was the Davis Theater, which is in my favorite neighborhood of Chicago, but they do trivia every week, and so it's just that the category changes or whatever. So this girl's run trivia before, but not Harry Potter trivia. But anyway, the questions that we got wrong, in case you're wondering, which film in the Harry Potter franchise is the shortest? And for a long time, the answer to that was movie 5, which is shocking, but I always remembered it because that's the longest book and it's the shortest film. It's sort of like ironic. But actually, movie 8, the very final Harry Potter film, came in 7 minutes shorter than movie 5. So that's the correct answer to that. And what was the other one? Oh, in Goblet of Fire, let's see if you guys know this. In Goblet of Fire, what dragon does Fleur Delacour face off against?
Oh man, my friend always quotes this scene because of
Chinese fireball.
Yeah, he always quotes that line. But I can't.
It's
Bartinius Crouch, Senior.
Yeah, Senior.
I'll say it's the Welsh Green.
Any guesses, Bethany?
I'm trying to think of what dragons there were.
From what I remember, you have the Hungarian Horntail, which we know Harry ends up with. The Chinese Fireball.
Ooh.
The Welsh Green. And there's is it a Swedish?
Short snout?
Short snout, yeah.
Yep. Yes, it is.
So what's the answer?
So,
Bethany,
the answer
first.
No, you.
I would probably say the Welsh Green as well, out of those ones.
Yeah, well, you two, you should have been at trivia with this because it is the Welsh Green.
Oh.
But actually, that was the thing. It's kind of like throwing darts at a wall. We could name the dragons, but as for the specific memory of who got what, I actually thought it was anti-feminist for for Fleur to get the common Welsh Green, like it's just some boring dragon. Like it's just like, oh yeah, she probably got the Swedish short snout because it sounds more badass, and she's badass. But anyway, it was the common Welsh Green, and that was our answer. So because we got those two questions wrong, other teams were able to succeed us by 1 and 2 points and 4 points, because each question was oddly like a different point value, and there were bonus points awarded for something else. Anyway, the final question had a wager with it, and we were able to wager the entirety of our points. Oh. So
it's like Final Jeopardy, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like all of our points. So basically, the top 4 teams, but so did the other teams. So everybody wagered their entire points, and so what was originally a trail of 4 points behind ended up at the end of the night 8 points behind. So none of the standings changed before the wager question to after the wager question because everybody got the wager question completely correct, which was an easy one, by the way.
What was it?
It was Dumbledore, what he says as opening remarks to the students in year 1. Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak. So there was a disparage of difficulty, but I will say that ultimately it was a very fun night, and we were all thrilled. And you know what? The first 4 rounds, including a bonus halftime question, our team, which was rolling like bowling, had 120 points out of a possible 120 points. And there were only 6 rounds. So it was only in round 5 or 6 after I posted to our Facebook group and bragged about it that we lost our luck and our karma ran out.
But that's like saying we were tied at halftime, but...
Oh, you sports person.
But anyway, these all sound like really great events to go to. I know cities throughout the country and probably even internationally have them all the time. Mm-hmm. It's really a great way. It sounds like to me, I haven't been to them yet. Maybe I need to go out to Chicago and come to one of these nights because clearly you need some support.
If I had known, I would have canceled my flight home and come found you guys.
Well, we did talk about it on the show, to be fair, but also it sold out very
for
quickly.
An interview, Eric. She wasn't.
I know.
About what time you guys were going to be at trivia night.
Look, it's about priorities. We could have used an additional Ravenclaw on the team, but I will say the problem with this is that they do always sell out early. You have to pre-reserve tables. You have to tell them, what your team size is so they can match it to a table. It's real rough. This stuff usually books up like months in advance. It's stupid. Just because Harry Potter is so popular. Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
What was the top prize?
Top prize in this case was 50% off your bill. Ooh. So obviously you're eating and drinking at this place. So no cash prize, except if you're eating and drinking while playing trivia, 50% off your bill. Other times it's been like the first one that we did, which was sponsored by the Potterotica show. Those, like, the cash prize there was like actually just $150 in cash or a gift card or something. But it's like it mostly feeds back into pub trivia, so you go again. But still, it's not nothing, You get a free night of drinking with 5 of your closest Harry Potter nerds. It's not bad. No. But we got 4th place, so we got nothing.
Cool.
Yeah.
As mentioned on last week's episode, the Prisoner of Azkaban Illustrated Edition was released. We talked a little bit about it, but we did have a giveaway over on Patreon. And just wanted to give a quick congratulations to our October giveaway contest winners. We do a monthly giveaway for our patrons over on patreon.com/MuggleCast. Abby and Kara both won copies of the Prisoner of Azkaban Illustrated Edition. So congrats to them.
Yeah, I actually won the first giveaway with the House Edition of Philosopher's Stone. I got my Ravenclaw one. So it's so exciting to get books from you guys. It's the best.
The best. Micah, did you send Abby or Kara the one that fell on the floor that you had, and then keep
No, that's mine. My floor is forever dented as a result. But it also just wanted to mention that we may have another contest for our members of our Slug Club coming up later on this month. More information probably later on this week, but we're keeping that under wraps. But suffice it to say, I think that people will enjoy it. And Bethany, any thought? Did you actually get a copy yet of the Prisoner of Azkaban Illustrated Edition?
I actually haven't, because with this new job, I'm moving really soon, and I told myself I would get to buy it when I moved, because it's one less thing to move. Although I put all my Harry Potter books in a box, and it's ridiculously heavy. So what's one more book? But yeah, I'll buy it once I move.
Well, suffice it to say, I mean,
really
it is pretty
smart.
heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
plus having like the first 2, all 7 of the normal books, Fantastic Beasts, Cursed Child, and then I have the Page to Screen book, which is like twice the size of the illustrated one. Yeah. So one less thing to carry on the truck.
Well, Eric, I keep thinking you're moving to Chicago. I was going to say, Eric will have your copy ready for you upon arrival in Chicago.
If only. I mean,
she's not coming here, dude.
You could fly to Napa Valley and welcome me with it there if you'd like.
Ooh, Napa Valley. Okay, only if you bring welcome wine.
Okay, deal.
And Eric, speaking of patrons, a little bit of news for one of our patrons who was on MuggleCast back on episode 334. Neva, right?
Mm-hmm.
She mentioned that she was going to be doing a podcast that was going to be released in October called Full Fat Foodies, and is now available. So recommend those of you listening out there, give it a download, check it out. It is a weekly health, wellness, and fitness podcast hosted by normal people for normal people, because living well shouldn't be so confusing.
Yay! It's really inspiring to see our listeners, people who've listened to us, go off and have podcasts of their own, and to start podcasts about which they are passionate, or discuss topics about which they are passionate. And Netta is the latest of all of these listeners to do so, and we definitely think that it's great. Also, I like the topic, so I'll definitely be listening to this. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I love listening to podcasts, and I always run out of them. So I always like trying new ones, so I'll definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Especially one about health, wellness, and fitness. I think
Yeah.
I could definitely use that, so I will be giving it a listen.
Yeah, definitely. I hope it's as educational as I need it to be to start working out and eating healthier. And speaking of eating healthy, I think that takes us easily into our first sponsor for this episode, which is Blue Apron. This week's episode is sponsored by Blue Apron, who are celebrating their 5th anniversary in October. Now, to mark this occasion, they're bringing back their top 20 recipes from throughout the past 5 years, as picked by the Blue Apron community. So Blue Apron's all about giving people fresh recipes to explore as they learn to cook new dish after new dish, which is why, and many people don't realize this, they don't repeat recipes within a calendar year. This is what makes this limited time offer so exciting. So you can try out Blue Apron's all-time customer favorites by going to blueapron.com/MuggleCast. I understand Andrew and his family are going to be holding a birthday party at the house to celebrate the anniversary. Check out this week's menu and get 30%. Check out this week's menu and get $30 off your first meal with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/MuggleCast. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. That's blueapron.com/MuggleCast. Blue Apron is a better way to cook. Micah, what do we have for news?
Let's talk a little bit about the news that's been going on, a couple stories here, and then we're actually going to get into a main discussion around Fantastic Beasts 2. We talked a lot about the casting news on last week's episode, but we thought it'd be a good idea now that we have all this additional casting to see kind of where we stand overall in terms of what we know and what we can expect from the second Fantastic Beasts film.
Right.
But first, let's talk a little bit about Cursed Child, Broadway edition. Tickets are going on sale this week. We're finally here. We know confirmation emails are going to be sent out on Monday, October 16th, the day of the show.
I'm glued to my phone right now, even though we're a day early right now. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I hope I get one.
We're recording on a Sunday. Confirmation emails are going to be going out tomorrow, which is when the show will be released. Mm-hmm. And then tickets are going to go on sale on Wednesday, October 18th. So if you get that confirmation email saying that you have successfully made the pool of registrants, you can
You
go
are
on
a
and
verified fan.
Yeah, you are verified officially. You get a check mark next to your name, just like on Twitter or Instagram. I guess the Facebook does it now too, right? So
yeah.
I've seen Andrew is officially verified on Facebook.
Andrew's verified everywhere. That jerk.
So this is exciting for those who are fans of Cursed Child, or at least want to check it out here in the States and couldn't make it over to the West End of London to see it. Has everybody here successfully at least gotten their name registered and the number of tickets they want and when they want to go see it, all that stuff?
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I got tickets if I'd be able to go, but who knows? We'll see. There's a whole group of Harry Potter fans in our Facebook group. So I could always...
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm sure you'd have no trouble getting rid of them if you couldn't make it for a performance that you selected.
Yes. It's a great thing about the patron Facebook group.
Yeah, it is. So definitely, I'm excited for it. I've mentioned a bunch of times before, but I'm hoping to go on my birthday week, which is opening week of public performances. There will be previews, but I'm not sure if you can even buy tickets to those on this through this process. So yeah, end of April, I hope to finally see Cursed Child, that bastion of new material.
So you will be scrambling as soon as tickets go on sale, assuming you get confirmed on or verified on Monday. You're going to be looking to buy up April as quickly as you can.
Yeah, probably. I mean, not all of April, just the end there, probably like the 24th or something.
So that's an interesting question, though, and Andrew may have more of the answer here, but in terms of when you can buy, is it just going to be like a block of time that gets opened up, or will you only have a very specific window that you can purchase in?
I'm not sure. I think you'll probably get the confirmation email. My guess would be that you would then use that confirmation on the website, assuming the website loads, which, to be honest, they do not have a good track record of that. once the website loads, to first put in your code, and then you'll see like a calendar, which is probably at least 18 months, maybe more, where you'll click on specific dates, and then all the show times will be listed for that week. Again, sometimes, I guess, I don't know if they're still going to do this in New York, but my understanding was that there are different performances, different nights. Not every night has part 1 and part 2 simultaneous, but some nights do. So somehow you're going to be presented with all the dates, and then you click on the ones that you want to go, and it'll tell you, oh, this is just part 1, and then the other night, like the next night, is going to be just part 2. Please be aware that this is a multiple night thing, which is a thing they have to say because people need hotels and stuff for like extra nights. And then you'll basically get like presented and have to choose then, I think.
Wow. Seems very complicated.
That's a guess. But yeah, it's complicated. Anything worth doing is complicated.
And I'm sure that we'll see some promotion going on for tickets officially going on sale this week here in New York. We know that there's a big billboard up in Times Square. There has been for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, have you walked by it? Have you snapped your selfies?
Haven't. Sorry.
Haven't snapped a selfie? Why not, Micah?
Not yet. Well, I don't have tickets yet. If I don't,
you're not a real Harry Potter fan.
Well, look, if I'm going to be a verified jerk as opposed to a verified fan, I need to make sure I have tickets in hand first before I go ahead and start taking pictures and selfies and all that stuff.
I guess that's fine.
So looking forward to seeing who makes the cut and who doesn't. It'd be funny if one of us didn't get tickets. I'm just going to throw that out there right now.
May the odds be ever in your favor, listeners. And I hope that we're not all banned because Andrew was Wormtaily that one time.
Another bit of news here is that the Cormoran Strike series is headed to Cinemax here in the U.S. It will be in June of 2018, and this is a little bit different. I thought initially that the series was going to be available on HBO, and Cinemax, which is actually a series of stations, just like Stars and Encore and a few others, that you have to pay for. If you don't have it, if it's not in the bundle of cable that you currently have, it's an additional $10 a month. And the series, which is a 7-episode series right now, 5 of those episodes have aired already in the UK on BBC, but all 7 of them will be coming to the US in June of next year, but available through a paywall on Cinemax.
Yeah, it's weird, I guess, now that all of these pay networks with either streaming or cable have, like, it's all about content wars, and everybody wants to have their hands in an exclusive series that they can just stream on their service or just show on their service on their channel. Maybe it's always been this way, but definitely Cinemax is an interesting choice, I think. I didn't even know, not to sound ignorant, but I didn't even know it was still around. Looking on the website now, the other like original series and things that they're showing on Cinemax include a show from Mike Judge, who did Beavis and Butthead, called Tales from the Tour Bus, another series called Quarry, another one called Outcast, and one that is in its 2nd season called The Nick. K-N-I-C-K.
They all sound great.
Yeah, I don't know. So,
well, I almost called it Skinemax, which is what a lot of people refer to it as.
Yeah, it has a history of low quality porn, softcore porn, right?
Yes, and we will leave it at that. But
I will say though, like July or June that this is coming out in, like I don't think I can wait that long. I'm just going to contact my friends who get the BBC, and I will go to their place and watch it.
Mm-hmm. Bethany, have you read the Cormoran Strike series?
Yes, I have, and I'm looking forward to watching this. Obviously I don't want to pay for it, so it'll just be figuring out how to watch it. But yeah, I really enjoyed the books. Do we know how many are in that series or when the next ones are coming out or anything?
There will be 7. The 4th one is called something like Deadly Light or Pure Light or something. I'm going to look that up. But the 4th book is not yet out, but there will be 7, my understanding.
Gotcha.
Lethal White. I was very close. Very, very, very close.
You had the white part. You had half of it.
Well, I said Deadly White.
Yeah.
Lethal
there
White
you go.
is
You had
much
it.
the same thing. Lethal. Yeah. Thank you.
But the TV series is 7 episodes, coincidentally, non-coincidentally, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. But those episodes do cover all 3 books that have been released to date. So Cuckoo's Calling, Silkworm, and Career of Evil all fit in those 7 episode block.
Yeah, and it seems I haven't read any reviews about it yet, but I heard it was pretty good from my friends who have the BBC.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning too, really quick though, even if it was going to be on HBO originally, you do still have to pay for HBO. HBO is not free, again,
right.
I understand people's struggles. They like to consume content in different ways, especially in this day and age. So it'll be interesting to see if something like the Cormoran Strike series ends up making it to Netflix or Amazon Prime or something along those lines. Given that Andrew is not here this week, I thought that we can talk about a story related to the Tales of Beedle the Bard.
Oh, phew! It's safe now to talk about Beedle the Bard.
And I don't think this is unsurprising, but something just worth quickly noting is that Chris Riddell, he is going to illustrate the Tales of Beedle the Bard for Bloomsbury in a new edition that's going to be released next year and benefit J.K. Rowling's charity Lumos. So yet another illustrated Harry Potter book is on its way in 2018.
Well, I'm glad that they're giving Jim Kay a break and not making him illustrate this one.
This one is interesting to me because this is actually fairy tales. These are children's stories, right? That would, you think, require quite a bit of illustration normally, and I think that it's interesting that we're going down this road again, that we're illustrating yet another Harry Potter book, but given that it is Beedle the Bard, I'll definitely be looking to get it. It comes out in October of 2018.
Yeah, I think it's more suited to be illustrated personally than, say, like Order of the Phoenix. Because as you said, Mike, it is a children's book and designed to be read like that. And I think the artwork, definitely like the imagery of the stories is very vibrant and I think will be done justice in art form. So I like it. I mean, the original Beedle the Bard, or the one that was released, had some illustrations from Joe.
Right. Yep.
I seem to recall the hopping pot with like a smelly, hairy foot coming out of a cauldron, and things like that. And I tend to prefer artwork done by the artist, the author herself. But I think that this will probably like be a nice book to have and to own and to just have around the house.
Yeah, and I think it's fun with like the Harry Potter books being illustrated and then Fantastic Beasts in this, like getting to share it with a younger generation. I think it's just like revamping it for, not revamping, that's not the word I wanted. But anyway, like...
Well, yeah, back in our day, we didn't need pictures to accompany every word in a book.
Yeah. Now they have illustrated versions and animated versions and everything, so...
And audio versions, yeah.
Yeah, pretty soon there's going to be intravenous versions. They can just pump
I'm
it into
waiting
our
for
system.
Virtual reality.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
That's the next step. But just to close out the story, Riddell said that these fairy tales are vivid and beautifully crafted and will resonate in the sumptuous format Bloomsbury has given me, but the true joy has been to discover the richness and texture of Dumbledore's footnotes. I can't wait to pull on my robes and begin my tenure as a supply teacher at Hogwarts.
That's awesome. This guy sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm. And then one more news story here, Eric, you wanted to touch on, and then we'll jump into the discussion.
Yeah, always a happy day when J.K. Rowling interacts with you on Twitter. This is not a follow-up to what happened to me last week, but this is just a nice moment. There's basically a new world-class gymnast, and her name is Morgan Hurd. And somebody was asking J.K. Rowling, somebody by the name of Uncle Tim, at Uncle Tim Men's Gym, "Dear J.K. Rowling, a huge Harry Potter fan named Morgan Hurd just became a world champion in gymnastics. Any chance you can congratulate her?" And Morgan replied to his comment and said, "I would actually cry." J.K. Rowling then tweets Morgan and says, "Congratulations, Morgan." And Morgan is just absolutely shocked. Uncle Tim's request did go through. J.K. Rowling got the news, and Morgan replied, "Oh my God, thank you so much. Your writing has truly changed my view on the world and my life." And then J.K. Rowling said, "I'm truly honored to hear that from a real-life hero in glasses." So J.K. Rowling totally looked up Morgan for sure and was able to congratulate her on a world-class title, which is absolutely very impressive. And it just really made this woman's day. So I thought that was really, really sweet that worked out for her. And yeah, I mean, ultimately seeing J.K. Rowling care about and congratulate and take the time to get to know, oh yeah, Morgan wears glasses, to really put some thought into what she said when she congratulated her was really special.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we definitely want to also congratulate Morgan.
All right. Well, let's get into our main discussion for the week. As mentioned earlier, we talked a lot about, on last week's episode, the new casting news for Fantastic Beasts 2. Quite a few characters revealed, and then also some additional information about those who will be returning. And we got a couple of listeners who wrote in and had some interesting thoughts and theories. So I think we can start there and then kind of jump into some of the other questions that we came up with now that we have a little bit of a larger picture in terms of what Fantastic Beasts 2 is all about, or maybe, quite honestly, we have no freaking clue. But we're gonna throw some ideas out there. We're gonna let Bethany, really tell us what she thinks is gonna happen, and we're just gonna stick by what she says.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, the pressure.
Yeah, our listeners are very eagle-eyed or eagle-eared, and some of this feedback, some of these rebuttals, and further discussion points will lead us nicely into figuring out what the heck is going on with this sequel. So, first rebuttal here is from Diana P., who says, "Hi, MuggleCast. When I found out Nicolas Flamel would be in Fantastic Beasts 2, I realized he'd be around 628 years old in the movie. I started to wonder if he and Dumbledore created the Elixir of Life. How did he get to be over 600 years old before meeting Dumbledore? When I reread Dumbledore's Chocolate Frog card, it says he is known for his work in alchemy with Nicolas Flamel, which means that together they must have discovered something other than the Elixir of Life. Do you think in Fantastic Beasts 2 we will find out what they discovered? Maybe it was inventing something that can separate a person from their obscurus, and some of their ingredients had to come from Newt's beast collection. And they will try to use it on Credence. What do you guys think?"
This was my, so yesterday when I was thinking about all of this, that was my biggest wonder. Is Newt brought into the story because of the Elixir of Life? Because I was reading up on it, and it not only extends life, but it also is said to cure all diseases, and Voldemort sought it out in order to restore his body. So I was wondering, since Newt had successfully separated the Obscurus from the Sudanese girl, but she died because of that process, I was wondering if, since Credence has a bigger role as the movies go on, if maybe they seek out Nicolas Flamel in order to utilize the Elixir of Life to separate Credence from the Obscurus.
This is blowing my mind right now. And it would seem to really streamline what we know of like what the plot has to be with what it could be based on the new casting. Like, I think it very neatly wraps a bow around what are all these new characters doing in Fantastic Beasts. And it seems to, like, what I like most about it is that it plays with the plot of the film that we do have already, in that Credence is trying to get well, or they're trying to help Credence out.
I really like the theory. I think that it has a lot of substance to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing if that's in fact how it plays out, because we talked a lot about on the last episode, it would be a little bit too cliche to have the villain going after the elixir of life, the Sorcerer's Stone, similar to what happened in the first Harry Potter book / movie.
Right.
However, do we think that this is only something that Newt would be interested in? Could Grindelwald be interested in obtaining something this powerful, even as it relates to separating the person from the Obscurus, although he seems to be more focused on how he can utilize Obscurus. What's the plural? Obscurials to
Obscuri, I guess.
Yeah. Well, how he can use them to his advantage. Like, that's why he goes to New York. He's in search of Credence and how he can use him to his advantage. So I think that, anytime one of these theories comes up, I feel like more questions come to the surface. It's good because we can look back on it and say Bethany was 100% right, and Eric and Micah were a bunch of dunderheads, but which is probably what's going to happen. But I really like that theory. I really do like that theory.
Diana points out that if Nicolas Flamel has been alive for 666 years at the time of Sorcerer's Stone, it means he clearly has had the elixir of life for a very long time. It had nothing to do with Dumbledore originally. The Sorcerer's Stone has nothing to do with Dumbledore originally. So the work together that is mentioned of Albus and Nicholas doing work together in alchemy has to ultimately be about something else that they worked on. And we know they're collaborative partners in something. We just don't know what, and the broad topic is alchemy. Really could be anything, and I like the idea that, yes, in this time period, it's very much been raised to be the issue of Obscurials and how to save their lives and what the nature of them is. It now seems a lot clearer based on this theory and kind of, the presence of Flamel being an indicator that maybe it does have something to do with alchemy and the magic and the secrets that medieval art has in store. Mm-hmm. So totally love it. You want to read the next one, Mike?
Yeah, but I have one more question. This may be a bit of an ignorant question, though. The elixir of life, is it sort of formalized and put into a solid state in the Sorcerer's Stone?
So the text says it is the only known maker of the Sorcerer's Stone which produces the elixir of life. So something about the stone can generate, I'm assuming, like a potion.
Yeah, I read online that the elixir of life is like a drinkable
you drink
potion.
It like an elixir. So something about the stone, and only the stone can do this, create this substance that you can ingest and then live forever. Although it really just prolongs life, because as we discover in book 1, Nicholas is slated to die. Because because he's distanced himself or separated himself from the stone, right? Right. The stone is destroyed at the end.
Right.
According to Dumbledore, which, can we really trust that? We'll find out.
Yeah, but I mean, also other possibilities in terms of using it to save people's lives who may be injured during the course of this movie, creatures, beasts who could be injured, or perhaps needing certain elements of certain beasts to actually create the elixir in the first place.
Well, yes and no. Again, Flamel has been using it for 500 years before he met Newt Scamander. So maybe
he's old. I mean, what's to say he can still chase down all the different ingredients?
I think it's fair, dude. And you know what I love about it is we never had this luxury in the Harry Potter books, because at the end of the first one, the Sorcerer's Stone is destroyed. But if you could totally use the Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone to keep one of our main characters alive or heal them after they've been injured by Grindelwald, hell yeah, then totally. Like, I'm so thrilled we're getting Nicolas Flamel. Maybe that means that the stakes are not as high as they seem to have been, with somebody like Nicolas Flamel on our side.
Yep. Possible.
So,
it's all
very
possible
exciting.
right now. Right. All right. Next email came from Kimmy, who says, "Hey, MuggleCast. I've been listening for a few months now, and I absolutely love the podcast, as I can never have too much Harry Potter in my life. Wanted to write in to comment on the discussion you had in episode 340 about Nicolas Flamel being in Fantastic Beasts 2 and the possibility of Grindelwald going after the Sorcerer's Stone. You mentioned that it seems strange for Grindelwald to be after the Elixir of Life because, as far as we know, Grindelwald never wanted immortality. I completely agree, because in addition to this being incredibly repetitive, I think it's also out of character for Grindelwald. Unlike Voldemort, who would obviously want the Elixir of Life since he spent a good portion of his life trying to make himself immortal, I feel like Grindelwald's motivation was never really about bringing glory to himself. In his own twisted way, Grindelwald was doing what he thought was best for the wizarding world, quote, for the greater good. If he did want the elixir, it would have been an element in his attempts If he did want the elixir, it would have to be an element in his attempts at a wizarding revolution, not just to help himself. I think it is much more likely that the timeline just matched up, and J.K. Rowling thought Flamel would make a great addition to the story. Can't wait to hear more of your thoughts on the new movies."
Yeah, this makes sense. Unless Grindelwald is after, something to do with the Obscurial and the Elixir of Life can give that to him, then he would want the stone.
You mean to just fully separate? Because
he doesn't really care. Yeah, he doesn't care about keeping the person alive necessarily. Right. He would absolutely, seeing how much in love he was with the Obscurus when Newt separated it, that was what he wanted to harness and, use. He doesn't care about it killing people, so I don't know why he'd be after the elixir. I guess, yeah, you're right. And
that would tie in, because Newt obviously is invested in, maintaining the Obscurus, not only to keep it away from Grindelwald, but also to, study it and whatnot. And so that would kind of be more conflict between Newt and Grindelwald if they were both after the Obscurus, but for different reasons.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea that the Obscurus plays into all of this, that it's a recurring thing. Of course, we know due to, the history, Dumbledore's history with Ariana, who's more than definitely an Obscurial as well, that it's going to be a central theme of these movies is that kind of creation and what it means for being true to yourself and what it means for the implications of how magic works, because the Obscurial is presumably the most important, powerful force, dark force in the universe. Mm-hmm. Here's an email from Nicole Smith, who says, "Hey there, listening to your discussion on episode 340 regarding new character releases. Specifically Travers and Rosier. I agree that it may be more of them just being darker and leading to their kin's Death Eater roots. I also wanted to help clarify the beginning of the Death Eaters. I don't think we're going to see the first Wizarding War at all. These books specifically reference the first Death Eaters really forming with Tom Riddle in school, those friends of his in the Slug Club that call themselves Death Eaters and become the first of Voldemort's supporters. So Death Eaters aren't a thing until after Voldemort leaves school and starts to gain power. I don't think that any characters in Fantastic Beasts... So I do think that any characters in Fantastic Beasts may be parents or grandparents of Death Eaters, but the films will only hint at their future kin. So Death Eaters, that might have just been a slip-up. Death Eaters aren't a thing until Voldemort is in power. So no matter what, this Travers and Rosier won't be Death Eaters. Doesn't mean they won't actively support Grindelwald or his views or even be whatever Grindelwald's gang eventually calls itself. So just a good clarification there from Nicole.
I think that there is a good chance, though, that these families were supporters of Grindelwald, and that the natural progression would be when they see somebody like a Grindelwald rise to power in Voldemort later on, there's the natural sort of affiliation that comes about as a result of it. Otherwise, why even put them in these films? You don't need to have Travers or Rosier in these movies unless there's going to be some sort of tie-in to Voldemort later on.
Right. I mean, J.K. Rowling, like a possible excuse is that Rowling has said how small the wizarding world is time and again. So, because especially like pureblood families, there's just so few of them, and wizards, there's so much less than there are muggles. And so her use of, grabbing ancestors or, grandparents, parents and grandparents of the Death Eaters and names that we're familiar with is also just to not have to come up with brand new names and then have Harry Potter fans be asking, well, where the heck were these families and their children in normal Harry Potter? So I think it might be just a creative way, too, of making sure that people know that it's in the same world without having to write all new family names and histories. So there is that.
True. Yeah, it's possible. I think, though, that my mind initially goes back to the Lestranges. Why have them in the movie? To me, these are they're callbacks, right? Normally, it doesn't go in this particular direction. Normally, you're building up to something that then in the future, when the Harry Potter movies are released, you're like, oh yeah, I remember when the Lestranges were mentioned in the Fantastic Beasts movies. But
right,
it's a little bit, we're going backward as opposed to be going forward. So I think it requires a little bit more math. But I'm trying to remember. I think was it Travers who was at school with Voldemort? Specifically mentioned
yes.
That. So it's very well possible that whoever we're meeting in this movie could be his father, could be his uncle, could be his brother, maybe. Again, wizards tend to have a little bit longer of a shelf life than humans do, so it's certainly possible that if he goes to school with him in the 1940s, that if we're still here in the 1920s, we're dealing with a relative that's not that far separated. Because I know Nicole touched on parents or grandparents, but would likely be this person's father, I would guess.
Yeah, you're right. And going to the point of families and the way that Queenie reacts when she finds out that Lita's last name is Lestrange, and even in America, they've heard of the Lestrange family. It isn't necessarily that people or entire families are evil, but when you're talking about a father-son or father-daughter or parental relationship, you're very much raised by your parents to hold their same views and values. Again, it's not that all families are evil, but if you have the family that sort of, if your dad was always going on about, your dad or your mom or both were always going on about Grindelwald and how he had some right ideas about how wizarding government should work and right. That kind of thing, you tend to internalize your family politics, and not to say you can't escape from them. Even Sirius Black did, but that's your first impression when you're raising up and when you're a child and when you're naive. There's not a real reason for you to have any different politics than those of your parents. So it makes sense that, I don't know, it would just be natural for somebody like Lita to believe whatever she hears at home about politics. And so, maybe, her being a troublemaker is a separate point entirely. But as far as, why these families always seem to be dark, how Travers and Rosier probably have kids who are Death Eaters, like you're saying, is more to do with, them raising their kids to believe what they believe. And not poor writing or anything like that.
And I just wanted to correct what I said earlier. I think I said Travers. It was actually Rosier that was at school with Voldemort.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I went back and I checked our doc from last week. I'm not well versed in those two characters. I'll throw that out there. So I think though that and we discussed this, and I think we'll continue to discuss it as the films go on, is that these two worlds that exist are really one and the same. And so even though we're talking about two distinct different time frames, right, in this world, inevitably they are going to become more and more interconnected. We are going to meet characters, younger versions of characters from the Harry Potter films. We are going to meet distant relatives. Things are going to come into play that only J.K. Rowling knows how to write. I mean, that's I think what drew so many of us to the Potter series initially is that ultimately at its core, it is a bit of a mystery, right? It is a bit of a detective novel to try and figure out exactly how all these pieces fit together. And so I think as the Fantastic Beasts films continue to get released, we are going to see more familiar names come to the surface, and to me, J.K. Rowling does it in a way that continues to keep bringing you back.
Yeah, it's palatable. She's doing it tastefully, and tantalizingly. I really love our last rebuttal here that we're going to read, which is from John Endline. John E. says, "Hey guys, after catching up on your episodes and character discussions, I have a theory. A few times you've mentioned Grindelwald getting his powers taken away when he's in Nurmengard, and someone brought up that if this was possible, why doesn't Voldemort do this to Muggleborns, etc.? My thinking is that the act of taking away another wizard's magic is something only Dumbledore was able to do to Grindelwald out of love. When Dumbledore finally decided he had to take down Grindelwald in 1945, I'm sure he couldn't bear killing him, so he took his powers away so that he could remain alive, imprisoned for his crimes. This would also rule out Voldemort ever being able to perform this type of magic because he can't love. Would love to hear your thoughts." So this idea, the reason I love it is because getting into the Obscurial and this parasitic force, which is like your magic force but repressed, if they really truly do learn to separate the Obscurial, or even have an idea about the nature of a wizard's innate magic, it might actually enable somebody like Dumbledore to take somebody's powers away. And that would explain why Grindelwald, from his defeat in 1945, is able to rot in a cell in a prison that he himself built for 50 years without escaping. Like, what finally stops Grindelwald is maybe that he gets his powers taken away.
Well, look, I mean, one of the major themes about this series thus far has been the ability to separate magic from person, right? Mm-hmm. So, is that what this is all leading up to? And I'm talking about, the Obscurials, right? So, yeah, if it's all about trying to find a way to detach the magic from the individual, maybe ultimately, if this is what Grindelwald is so passionate about seeking, that it's almost ironic in the end that that's what ends up happening to him, that they do find a way to do this, and it ends up kind of biting him in the ass in the long run. Yeah. I also love the idea that it's a good side power, that it's the light rather than the dark magic that is causing you to separate a wizard from their magic, although I don't really buy that. It's certainly interesting and would explain why Voldemort doesn't do it later. Like, that is the problem, again, to reiterate, that these films have, I think, to some extent, which is that you ultimately cannot introduce a new facet or aspect of the magical world that would have made the Harry Potter books shorter. You can't do it because that's a plot hole. So I don't know. It's just because Dumbledore is so heavily involved in Harry's journey, and if there were anything that Dumbledore could do, like
saving Harry's magic or whatever it could be. Whatever it turns out he and Flamel are working on, with Newt maybe giving a hand, any of that. If it could have made Harry's life easier, we want to believe that Dumbledore would have done it. So ultimately there can't be so many revelations that are relevant to Harry's story. They have to be things like the Obscurial, which are relevant only to Dumbledore because of his family history. Things that have grander Wizarding World implications, but not ones that directly influence what Voldemort could have done to either seize power or succeed, or anything like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I think these emails kind of lead into a much larger discussion, right? As we look at what we know about Fantastic Beasts 2, you just mentioned the Dumbledore family. There's quite a bunch of new characters that we're aware of to this point. We know that Jude Law has been cast as Dumbledore. We have heard that they were looking to cast younger versions of both Newt and Leta, as well as Albus and Grindelwald. There was a casting call for a young character named Sebastian, who we know very little about. Theseus, who has been mentioned in the first Fantastic Beasts film, but will in fact be playing a role in Fantastic Beasts 2. There's a character called Krall, which we've actually never spoken about on this show. We'll get to him in a second. Nicolas Flamel, who we've spent a lot of time talking about. The two Death Eater families, Rossier and Travers, and then some other kind of random characters. Spielman, no relation that we know of to Eric.
No relation.
Bunty, who kind of sounds like could be involved in the circus that we know about. And then Arnold Guzman. And then we've gotten confirmation on returning characters like Leta Lestrange, Serafina Pickery, Credence, and then Abernathy. Kind of a random one there, but so there's a lot of characters, and what I wanted to do here is just kind of talk for a minute about the fact that we've mentioned all these characters, but we haven't even talked about Newt, Tina, Jacob, or Queenie. Like this is a pretty big cast.
Yeah, it's huge. It's so much beyond, like, in terms of importance of multiple characters, it goes beyond the scope of the Harry Potter films, at the very least. The Harry Potter films, you had a trio. Here we have a quartet. But even in Harry Potter, main character-wise, you only have maybe a couple more professors and Voldemort. Versus this one, you have a series of so many more allies, which just seem, because we're introducing all of them for the first time, will need to take up screen time and have importance in this film. Or they should.
Yeah, and taking a look at the entire cast, where do we really think this movie is headed? And interested, Bethany, to get your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I know last week on the show, you guys were listing all of the things between the circus and it being there being scenes in America and London and Paris and scenes at Hogwarts and everything. I feel like there's going to be a lot of look into history, how Dumbledore and Grindelwald are connected, how Newt and Leta are connected, which would explain why they're casting the younger actors for those characters. But I think it's probably going to be how are all these people connected, to try to start building why they're motivated to fight against Grindelwald, how whatever the relationship between Newt and Leta are, how that is tumultuous. Because it's just hard. There's so much they're trying to fit in, and obviously a lot of characters. So I think it's just gonna, and I think even with the all of the characters, even that were just cast, it might just be they appear on screen in a scene, a group of them with Grindelwald, all of his followers, and then they might not even be introduced by name or have any lines, but they'll cast characters that have a specific character that they'll cast actors and actresses that have specific characters they're playing without them actually having a part, but just to show that Grindelwald was starting to get followers and why they're all motivated to, how Newt and Dumbledore connected, those kind of things.
Yeah. We mentioned, I think, the Shaws last week, and actors who are announced and their character names are revealed, and we think they're going to be big, but ultimately they're just part of a larger group that don't really get anything. The thing here too, Micah, you have in the document, can Beasts even fit into a story with this many characters? Is there a chance Fantastic Beasts 2 focuses on one beast that's integral to the plot? Will she be part of the circus? So we have this Wizarding Circus, which is happening, and this beast, but with all this new casting news, it's like, wait a minute, are beasts just like the magical beasts, Fantastic Beasts, which the series derives its namesake from, are they just going to be an afterthought in this film? Or, how do you guys feel? I know for me personally, I want to see more of the Newt case. I want to see more of these crazy creatures and where they live, and I think it's sort of in the nature of a sequel in some ways to top or to heighten or to showcase more of, spend more time with things you introduced in the first film. But I just can't see, with all of these characters, Newt sitting down and petting or feeding a new creature we've never seen before. I just don't think there's room.
It's hard to say. I think that Beast definitely won't be playing as big of a role as they did in the first film. I think that introduction to Newt's suitcase was the introduction to the world in which Newt lives, and I think that we will get Beasts in the second film, but I just think that there's going to be one or two that are integral to the plot, and it could, one of them could very well be the Obscurus, and there's going to be a way that it all ties back together. J.K. Rowling is very good at that, but I don't think we're going to be chasing down, Beasts in Central Park or the equivalent of that in France. Maybe we see some when we're at Hogwarts. We've talked a lot about Beasts that Newt could potentially give to characters that we know. It may be a little bit early for the Hagrid Aragog handoff, but not so much for Fawkes. We don't know a lot about Fawkes, at least right now. Yeah. So that I'm interested. A phoenix is eternal, right? So is the elixir of life, supposed to make you eternal. So could something from a phoenix be integral to creating the Sorcerer's Stone? I think it's certain. Yeah, go ahead.
It's certainly integral to creating Harry's wand. Maybe we can see the birth. We can see Newt or Nicolas Flamel plucking the tail feather that in 12 years' time will go, or in 10 years' time will go to Tom Riddle and Harry, and in 30 years Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like they'll probably bring back like the fan favorite beasts, like the Niffler and Niffler. Is it what's the little stick's name? Is it Pickett? Am I making that up?
Oh, yeah, Bowtruckle.
The Bowtruckle, yeah. But I feel like they'll bring those back just because fans loved like the relationship that Newt had with them. But I definitely could see is the plural obscurial? Is that correct?
No, well, obscurial is the person who is possessed by the Obscurus.
Okay, there's so many different forms of the word.
I know. Yeah.
But I feel like those will be those could be a like major like plot device, like Beast in the next movie, because who's to say that like Grindelwald doesn't start trying to seek out others, since trying to like get the Obscurus from Credence like didn't work, and maybe that's why I was interested when I was like rereading the like plot of the next movie. It said that Albus needed help from Newt, and so I think in like my mind, I was like, oh, that normally I feel like everyone would seek help from Albus, but they worded it that Albus was seeking help from Newt. So maybe when like a thought could be like if Dumbledore realized that Grindelwald was seeking out the Obscuri or whatever the plural is, maybe that's why he enlists Newt's help, since Newt knows more about them and would be able to possibly help out that was just a thought. I don't know if that has any validity, but
I think it's a good thought though, because we know, or at least we think we know at this point, that Ariana was an Obscurus. So if this all played out the way that we think it did, and Grindelwald had a major role in that, then that was sort of the foundation upon which all of this began. So your theory about Dumbledore potentially needing Newt's help in trying to stop Grindelwald from pursuing more of these Obscuruses,
right,
or Obscuri, whatever we're calling them, actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think that kind of helps answer the question a little bit of how much do we think we're going to be spending looking back in this film as opposed to being in present day. And this in my mind is a creative way to kind of cut out the core four characters from a good portion of the film, right? In terms of not needing a lot of screen time for Newt or Jacob or Tina or Queenie, if you're spending a lot of the film going back and looking at the relationship between Newt and Lita, what transpired between Dumbledore and Grindelwald all those years ago.
Yeah, I will say, though, this still feels like their series to me. They're the quartet. It'll break my heart if in a couple months it comes out that they only had a few weeks of filming because the movie's about so many damn other things. You know? Like, that would just kill me if in this film Jacob stays in America and Queenie with him because they're together now and he's got a bakery to run. That would suck, right? Like if it's, we could, certainly the film would be capable of telling an interesting story that didn't involve those characters, but this still very much, like for me, for comfort level, I want it to still focus on these core four.
Yeah, and I feel like it wouldn't make sense to cut them out because obviously we know that Newt and Tina end up together, so we probably want to learn more about her, and everyone fell in love with Jacob, so it wouldn't really make sense to cut them out. You know, obviously if they have to do a lot of like backstory and flashbacks and whatnot, like to build up the storyline, like that makes sense, but I just don't feel like it would make sense that they wouldn't be like the focus of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Harry Potter films have flashbacks in the Harry Potter films, I'll say it, I'll be the one to say it, have always sucked.
Yes.
Because they get so condensed in the interest of, I don't know if it's pacing, we could ask Heyman and Yates about that at some point, but like Snape's Worst Memory, for instance, which was cast and shot, amounted to, half of a montage of like 3 shots, and that was it. So, all the dialogue, everything that made it important will be cut out. Of course, they can't do that if they're actually explaining things like Lita and Newt's backstory, or Dumbledore and Grindelwald first meeting, or anything that happened and wherever Sebastian comes in. They have to do longer backstories. But ultimately, flashbacks have never ruled the Harry Potter films, so why start now? The question of how much time will actually be spent in a flashback, I simultaneously would like it to be a lot of time because I love like stuff that happened in the past. I love flashback as a technique, but then I also just want to kind of get to the main action and be like, well, now that established what we're doing now, but let's actually see the characters do stuff now.
And for that in particular, you would still need a bit more casting, right? We haven't heard about Ariana being cast. We haven't heard about Aberforth, who is present, or either of Dumbledore's parents, even assuming it goes back further than that point, right?
Is it Kendra and
Kendra,
his dad,
Percival?
Oh yeah. So really interesting. And going back to New Beasts real quick, just I hope that there is this wizarding circus which is visiting Paris, I think, or at least Europe. Maybe that will be our only source of new beasts in the film that we'll be able to see, I don't know, a weird animal or something. I've really liked our discussion a few weeks ago, which we dedicated to the circus when we first found out about it. But maybe we'll basically rely on the core established characters and beasts, and then, as you said, Bethany, have like the fan favorites like the Niffler. Like, I think the Niffler and maybe the Crumplehorn Snorkack will probably have another scene where maybe they get let loose, or maybe like not let loose in the same way of oops, they got out of the case, but like, you know, strategically used by Newt for a purpose. I think. And God, guys, what would the Niffler do with the Sorcerer's Stone where you could turn anything into gold? Can you imagine?
That could make for its own deleted scene, I guess.
It would just die. It would just die.
No,
I think it's furry
also
little head.
Also, the Demi-Guys, I think that's an easy one to.
Oh yeah. See, there's so many memorable
Him
beasts.
and Jacob get along very well, from what I remember.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll even have, like, if Newt and Albus or whoever are meeting, maybe they're meeting in his case. So you'll see all the creatures that we met in the last movie, like, in the background, or they're, you know, Newt's taking care of them. Like, even that, maybe they'll try to, like, just insert, like, the ones that fans know into the movie just to create, like, a sense of consistency.
Yeah. Well, Eric did say, didn't you, a couple weeks ago, that Pickett was going to end up in Dumbledore's beard?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably legit. I think, well, if he ever leaves Newt's side, because I think he's still a little attached to Newt, which is great. So, yeah, Dumbledore's beard at this point is not long enough for, based on that photo of Jude Law we found, is not long enough for Pickett to live in. But give it time, everybody. Give it time. Give it about 40 years, and we'll see how we feel.
All right. Well, I think there's obviously going to be a lot to discuss. We're going to get a lot of new characters that will be cast in the coming weeks, right? I think, you know, we're going to hit high season at some point here where we're start to get more and more information about Fantastic Beasts 2.
Even last week's announcement of 9, was it new characters, is huge. And yeah, there may indeed be more coming. The movie is about a year away. We're about, actually it's like 13 months to the day, ish. And that is a pretty exciting thing. But yeah, there's a long haul to go, and a lot more will be revealed which answer some of these questions about how certain characters fit into certain things.
It's exciting because for the first movie, it was really difficult to discuss what we thought was going to happen because we really had nothing to go off of. So now that we at least have one movie to go off of, to be able to have like a lot more in-depth discussions like this, knowing based on our knowledge of the Harry Potter series and now having a Fantastic Beasts movie, it makes for a lot better discussion, which is exciting.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about Krall real quickly.
Yeah, so this was a bit of casting news. I don't remember us ever discussing on the show, but apparently Krall is a ambitious and sulky henchman of Grindelwald's that will be appearing in the next Fantastic Beasts film. And it's interesting because we haven't seen any of Grindelwald's quote-unquote followers yet. We saw in the first film, before the big reveal, that Graves could have potentially been a follower of Grindelwald's, but we obviously know that now not to be the case. However, it's clear that somebody like him is definitely going to have those who follow and subscribe to his, how he thinks. And this is a time of very tense relations internationally. We know that we're headed ultimately towards the Second World War. So I'm assuming that there are going to be a lot of parallels that exist between what happened in the real world and what's happening in the wizarding world as well.
Yeah, we saw Grindelwald make that, under the form of Graves, we saw him make a compelling argument, an argument that, the Aurors, the other Aurors who were supposed to attack him were stymied by. Like, his rhetoric, his powerful way of speaking appeals to the parts inside of people that craves dominance and craves power and craves supremacy, all the things that following Grindelwald promises. So we will start to see people following Grindelwald. We will start to see people who are actively acting against our heroes that aren't just the person who's in disguise as Grindelwald himself. And we may or may not, this keeps getting alluded to, we may or may not see one of the 4, characters betray each other. and their friends for Grindelwald. I don't think it'll happen, but it might happen.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah, because, I mean, at this point, I think the series is suffering from too many good guys, right? Credence is sort of a wild card, but more inclined to listen to Queenie's soft-heartedness. We have Queenie, Tina, Jacob, Newt, Dumbledore, Flamel, the list goes on.
Theseus, we're assuming, is a good guy.
Yeah, Theseus, who's the man who's designated by the Ministry to hunt down Grindelwald. Like, the list goes on. There's so many good guys we know very, very, very little about. Spielman, who's probably a bad guy, and other bad guys.
All right.
I think Spielman's a bad guy.
We did hear from our patrons on this topic overall in terms of the casting news that broke last week. First up, Sean McKee said, very excited that Carmen Ejogo is returning. The backstory of Serafina Pickery on Pottermore was the most interesting to me of all the characters introduced in Fantastic Beasts, but she really wasn't in the first film much. Have to wait and see if she has a bigger part in the sequel, but I'm very happy to see Madam President back on the big screen.
Yeah. I'd love to see her have an even bigger part in part 2 than she did in part 1. I don't think it's possible at all.
So you're crushing your dreams.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love for this film, for Fantastic Beasts 2 to really be like every single other character is a peripheral character, and Fantastic Beasts 2 happens to be the story of like Abernathy struggling to make it in the world. Or Pickery. Yeah, it won't happen. Like, there's just so many. This is going to be a who's who of like actors and royalty, and it's just going to be so convoluted, I think. That even if it does make sense, it will amount to a very low amount of screen time for any one actor, even probably, as we just discussed, the main 4.
Right. Well, Laverius agrees with you and says, with all these characters in the movie, I doubt these new additions will get much screen time. With too many characters, the story could lose its focus, and the main criticism of the last movie was that it lacked focus. That's the first time I'm hearing that, actually, but we can discuss that. I'm also willing to bet Grindelwald won't get too much screen time, less than 30 minutes tops. 30 minutes is a lot, actually. He'll have his big breakout fight scene from Makusa, then he'll just be working from behind the scenes for a while. Betting the main villain of the second movie will be his henchman Krall, played by David Sakurai. Is that how you say that? Sakurai?
So, yeah, maybe.
Who happens to be from Copenhagen, which could mean the character may be a former Durmstrang student. I'm also hoping Serafina gets more to do than be the American Cornelius Fudge. As the background for her character suggests, she's quite a formidable witch. Maybe her and Grindelwald briefly duel when the latter is escaping. I'm also curious to see how Theseus and Lita fit into all this. Many intriguing prospects to think about.
I was looking up that actor David Sakurai, who also was a character in Marvel's Iron Fist. And the guy seems really talented, to be honest. He's trained in martial arts and actually is sort of a comedic role in Iron Fist. So I think it'll be an interesting character, just having that insight into his character.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And then finally, from Shyam, I think the most intriguing casting is definitely Flamel or Jessica Williams. Also, I'm glad Serafina will be back, but I really hope she gets to do more other than act irritated at Tina 24/7. I was so hyped for her character before the first movie was released, having heard so many cool things about her, but she was criminally underused. This is probably a long shot, but I kind of hope she joins Newt's gang and becomes one of the main characters. I agree with what you guys have said about too many new cast members. I have no clue how they're going to fit so many people in the story. So actually, over on Patreon, a lot of love there for Serafina Pickery. I think a lot of people want to see her get some more screen time. But actually, Eric, I just wanted to touch on something you mentioned that we didn't talk about, that you mentioned in the doc, I should say, that Jessica Williams is American. So it'll be interesting to see if she plays a role here in New York, or she plays a completely different role over in either Paris or the UK.
Yeah, I'm so torn about both of these issues, Serafina Pickery and the casting of Jessica Williams, because regarding Serafina, let's be clear here. She still has a country to run. So I don't think it's likely that she's even going to be in Paris unless it's sort of like a day trip for a symposium or a meeting, like the one we saw taking place in New York City during the events of the first Beast film. So maybe she'll make a cameo. Maybe she'll be approached by somebody who's announcing that Grindelwald has escaped, and she's like, what? But I really don't think it'll be a bigger role. Then with Jessica Williams, again, like, if the Harry Potter films used to not cast American actors, as a rule, it was only British people because they're playing British characters for whatever reasons. I don't know if it was like a win more BAFTAs sort of thing, or if they just don't think Americans can do good British accents. I certainly can't. But they didn't used to cast American actors. Now they've actually broken that. The dam has broken on that, and I found out that I really wanted to believe that we'd spend more time in America as a result of Jessica Williams, who is an American, being cast. But then I noticed, unfortunately, that also Zoe Kravitz, who plays Lita Lestrange, is also an American actress. So this is sort of dangerous because it's no longer a guarantee. The Lestrange family, we know, are English, or there's a significant portion of them in England. Are we saying if they're keeping with the rule that only English actors can play English characters, then Lita Lestrange must be an American exchange student who's coming over to Hogwarts, falling in love with Newt, etc. Yeah. May explain why Newt is not interested in America that much.
I don't think so.
Or Lita is in fact British, which they have an American actress playing a British actress. Nothing wrong with that, but Harry Potter has tended not to do that. And it means that Jessica Williams is not necessarily an American character. They could have her, indeed, as Andrew suggested last week, playing a relation to Lita, but also she could be British. So we can't really use it.
To Serafina as well.
Or to Serafina.
Or just, we know her background from The Daily Show. She could fit in as a reporter here. We'll see. Time will tell. I think there's plenty to theorize on here. Definitely want listeners to send us their feedback, whether it's by email or on Twitter. There's a number of different ways, obviously, that you can get in touch with us, but send us your thoughts. And there is no bad one, especially since we don't have the answers. And, we'll theorize on it from now until November 2018.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have a couple more things to get to, but before we do, we wanted to let you know that today's podcast is also brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you looking for a job or looking to hire? Well, let me tell you about this week's sponsor, ZipRecruiter. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. Then ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting so you receive the best possible matches. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you, it finds them. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter is also excellent for finding a job. With so many businesses posting job opportunities, ZipRecruiter will connect you with potential employers quickly. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by growing businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/MuggleCast. That's ZipRecruiter.com/MuggleCast.
Excellent. Well, now we have a Quizits question and answer session for you all. Last week's question, as a refresher, was what word or words does Harry say to open up the wall of snakes in the Chamber of Secrets? And that's a Book 2 question. Many of you wrote in. Actually, some of you who were listening live on Patreon already got it right away as we were saying it. But hey, whatever. It's sort of a trick question. Harry says just the word "open," or in some cases, "open up." Except he's speaking Parseltongue when he does it.
So what exactly does that sound like?
That's
like pretty good, actually. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Who tweeted
like
that? Anybody tweet that?
Sai Hatsi or whatever. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I actually didn't do crowdsourcing for answers. I just wanted to congratulate everybody who knew that there was not a particular password to open the Chamber of Secrets. It was just saying open in Parseltongue. And you know what? That reminds me. Parseltongue is such a rare gift, which should be appreciated. But also, because it's so rare, that's almost as good as actually having a password. Because, so few people, like just saying open, saying a word in Parseltongue means that you were rare enough or talented enough to be able to get in. So that was good enough for Salazar Slytherin. It's good enough for me. Of course, Ron foils it by having as good a memory as I do about what the word was. But that was the answer. Now I need from you guys to pick a book between 1 and 3 for next week's Quizzits question. What is the name of the student who lost an eye from as caused by the Whomping Willow? That's the hardest question I've got for you all.
Right.
Who nearly lost an eye from the Whomping Willow?
That's a good question. We'll get that up on Twitter this week, and Eric will find a way to celebrate the person who tweets in the correct answer first.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to wrap up the show this week, we did get a couple of text messages. This is the new way people are reaching out to us. They are texting our voicemail line.
It's all the rage. All the rage.
All the kids are doing it. In 2017, we're finally getting to text messages. It's who knows in 2018 maybe we'll finally be on Snapchat.
Oh yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, the first one here is from Nicole. And she says, I've emailed a few times as I'm listening more regularly again, but I've mostly been emailing to correct you because I'm a freak and way too proud of my excessive knowledge. Okay. But anyway, I'm also texting after listening to this past week's episode. You had one voicemail from the woman who listens while she runs, and Andrew said he could never do that because it doesn't pump him up. Surprisingly, I actually listen when I bike because it distracts me and helps pass time more. And I love it. Just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Just got a listener who. But I wonder if she
Please
texted
don't get
that.
distracted too much while you bike. I hope it's a stationary bike, not a actual you're out in your community riding where cars are next to you and stuff like that.
I was gonna say I hope she didn't text that while biking.
Yeah, like I said, unless it's a stationary exercise bike, that's totally
Wait a minute.
permissible.
Micah, I'm going to hold you to what's wrong with getting out in your community and getting some nice fresh air?
The podcast distracts her. She can't be distracted while she's riding a bike out
cutting through traffic. Yeah, good point.
Oh man, I'm not going to be responsible. You want to be responsible?
No. Okay, disclaimer. Okay, if you're lifting heavy machinery while listening to MuggleCast, it is not our fault if you burst into laughter and drop something on your foot or kill somebody. It's not our fault. That's your disclaimer.
All right. Molly says, hi, my name is Molly. I'm a Gryffindor, and I wanted to say that this is the best podcast I've ever listened to. It doesn't feel like I'm listening to three people I've never met before rant about how bad the cursed child is or how suspicious J.K. Rowling is acting. Feels like I'm listening to a few friends happily discussing something that I am very passionate about. I meet a lot of people who make me feel childish for liking Harry Potter, and it's nice to get away from that. Getting to the point, I have a comment about Fantastic Beasts 2. A while ago, you guys were discussing a plot twist involving Jacob living in the case with taking care of the magical creatures while Newt is gone. I think this is the greatest idea ever because I can just imagine the dramatic music rising as Newt says something like, quote, "My beasts are taken care of," and Jacob stepping out of the shadows with a creature in his arms and him going, "Hey," and then the scene goes black. Also, I really want Hagrid to meet Newt because they would be such good friends. Anyway, keep doing what you're doing because you're doing very good at it. Sorry this is so long. Oh, is that part of it?
Yeah, last week we complained about emails being too long, and now somebody's managed to send a long text message. But it was delightful to read, and we want to thank Molly for the Gryffindor for her support.
I think we're all looking forward to Newt and Hagrid finally meeting up with each other at some point.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure that will happen. I'm also about 70% sure that won't happen till the 4th or 5th Fantastic Beasts film. Because again, we have to get there in time, and even in 1945, Hagrid will only be in his 3rd year at Hogwarts or so. So he's very young thing.
But great idea about Jacob taking care of Newt's creatures while he's off doing whatever it is he needs to do. That would keep him safe, I would hope.
It would keep him safe, I think, and also be a good way for that's a perfect compromise between Jacob the Muggle, who is unable to see Hogwarts, like even if he were standing at Hogwarts, unable to enter it, unable to go inside. But he does have Newt's suitcase. He's already been in there, and we know that's a way that he can very readily interact with the magical world, which is great.
And, well, first he needs to get his memory back.
And he does need to get his memory back, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Finally, we heard from Anonymous, who says, "Hi guys, Harry Potter fan, only actually for the last 6 years. Grew up with the movies and Legos. Constant builder watcher, but was never a fanatic. Got way into it in college, have a tattoo, and have been listening to y'all since 2015. I love you guys, but my only problem is Cursed Child. Y'all have gotten better, but my main comment is leave Cursed Child alone." Okay, well, we will.
I think that we have just gotten done with a 90-minute episode or so where we didn't say a single bad thing about Cursed Child.
I think that's true. I think we've done nothing outside of say that people should be excited tomorrow, where as mentioned, we're recording on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. You will find out whether or not you've gotten the opportunity to purchase tickets to Cursed Child on Broadway. The tickets go on sale on Wednesday, October 18th. People should be excited. I'm evidenced by the fact of the site not working properly, which may have been the only negative that we drew upon, but that's not Cursed Child's fault.
It's not opinion either. It's historical,
fact,
recall. Yeah, they never build a website big enough. But yeah, I really think we did it, you guys. I think we talked. We did a whole episode without talking down on Cursed Child.
I think it's all due to Bethany, honestly.
I try to be as optimistic as I can. So
yeah.
And it helps that we have seeing it in person to look forward to. It'll be a different experience than just reading it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it won't be as inapproachable.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is one thing we'll have to look forward to next week. On our next episode, we will be able to discuss which of us made the final cut for Cursed Child Broadway tickets. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a lot more will come up between now and then. As mentioned, definitely hit us up. Let us know your thoughts on all of the casting news that has come about in the last couple of weeks around Fantastic Beasts 2. I'm sure there's more to come there as well. There's a number of ways that you can get in touch with us. You can email us, MuggleCast@gmail.com. Tweet at us at MuggleCast on Twitter. We also have Facebook, facebook.com/MuggleCast, as well as our Patreon, where we have a number of people writing in on all different types of topics at all hours of the day. Bethany, I know you're one of them. Mm-hmm. We really appreciate you being a member of our Slug Club, supporting the show, coming on the show today. You definitely kept us all in check. Andrew would be proud.
Oh, well, I really loved being on today. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Absolutely. There is also a voicemail line, right, Eric, where you can leave a voicemail or also apparently send us text messages.
Yeah, I think that number is 9203-MUGGLE, but don't quote me. Andrew's the one who remembers that. Yeah, don't quote me or text me. 9203-MUGGLE, MUGGLE, and that's alphanumeric. Also, the P.O. Box number to send me your chocolate. MuggleCast P.O. Box is 4044 North Lincoln Avenue, Box 144, Chicago, IL 60618.
All right. Well, Bethany, thank you so much again for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much as well.
Congratulations again on the new job, and good luck with the move out west.
Oh, thanks.
Are you looking forward to the warmer weather?
Yes, I am. And the lower humidity will be nice as well. So
Oh, yeah. We had a few hot weeks here in Chicago, too. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, we'll catch you later then.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, listeners. We'll catch you next week for episode 342.
I'm Micah.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Bethany.
Bye.
See ya, and good luck in the lottery. Unless
yes,
you draw my number.
may the odds be ever in your favor.
Bye.
Bye.